Hey, History Seeking here, and today we shall take a tour around the remains of Bolingbroke Castle in Lincolnshire, built in the 13th century, the birthplace of King Henry IV, and by the 17th century the castle was dilapidated, according to the survey undertaken. Bolingbroke Castle was one of three castles, built by Randolph de Blundeville, Earl of Chester and Lincoln in the 1220s, after his return from the Crusades. After Blundeville's death, the castle remained in the ownership of the Earls of Lincoln and was later inherited through marriage by John of Gaunt, Duke of Lancaster. Bolingbroke Castle was a hexagonal 13th century castle and was the birthplace of King Henry IV. In 1367, the castle was captured by parliamentary forces after a 2-month siege in November 1643. The main function of the castle during the 15th and 16th centuries was an administrative centre for the estates of the Duchy of Lancaster. The current names of the tower, for example, the Auditor's Tower and Receiver's Tower, refer to their use during this period. Surveys undertaken at the castle in the 17th century show that only a few of the towers then remained in use, and that the enclosing walls were extremely dilapidated. We are standing on the site of the Great Hall. The picture shows how it may have looked in the 15th century. The Great Hall was the ceremonial centre of the castle. It was used for public business and for entertaining guests. The hall was probably timber framed, although it had some stone foundations. It was built against the curtain wall. There was also a central open fire, the smoke escaping through a vent in the tiled roof. At the end of the hall, nearest the Gatehouse, there was a building which probably contained withdrawing chambers. At the other end of the hall was a corridor leading to the kitchen. The Great Hall is thought to have been built around the 1400s to replace an earlier hall. Here in front of us are the remains of the East Gatehouse. The East and West Gatehouse towers had rooms for guards on the ground floor, with storerooms in the basement. The storerooms in the tower were later altered to create prison cells for those waiting trial in the nearby Bolingbroke Courthouse. Bolingbroke Castle was built by a powerful Norman baron, Randolph de Blundeville, Earl of Lincoln and Chester, in around the 1220s to 1230s. Its design compares to Chartley in Staffordshire and Beeston in Cheshire, two castles built by the Earl in the 1220s. The castle had a moat, more than 90 feet wide, which came right up to the walls. When the castle was demolished, the moat filled with rubble to form the marshy weed-filled area to the left. The main entrance to the castle was over a drawbridge leading to the Gatehouse. The causeway in front of you now marks the line of the drawbridge. The Gatehouse consisted of two D-shaped towers, flanking a narrow passage which housed the counterweight system for the drawbridge. This is the remains of the West Gatehouse. The Receiver's Tower was responsible for maintaining the castle and for keeping the records of expenditure. The accounts were stored in this tower until the 17th century. Patches of limewash decoration on the inside wall survive, especially on this side. Outside the entrance of the tower is a mound, all that is left of a stone porch. The steps in the thickness of the wall behind the mound led to a latrine which emptied into the moat. Another mound, further across, covers the remains of a kiln for firing bricks or tiles. As we already know, Bolingbroke Castle was built by a powerful Norman Baron Randolph de Blundeville, Earl of Lincoln and Chester, in about 1220 to 1230. The castle passed to the House of Lancaster in 1311, and John of Gaunt was the last of his dynasty to live here. John of Gaunt's son, King Henry IV, was born at Bolingbroke in 1366, and it became a royal castle when Henry succeeded to the throne in 1399. However, the castle was not used as a royal residence. By the time of the Civil War in the mid-17th century, the castle was in decay, but it was briefly held by royalist troops until the parliamentary victory in 1643 at the Battle of Wickenby, 3 miles to the north. Parliamentary forces took control of Bolingbroke, but as they left, the castle was like so many others, deliberately ruined or slighted. Stone was later robbed from the buildings. In 1949, the site, which was nothing more than a grassy mound, was placed by the Duchy of Lancaster in the guardianship of the former Ministry of Works. Its management function subsequently passed to English Heritage. In the intervening years, the remains have been excavated and the stonework consolidated for the future. The kitchen tower was named because the kitchen lay close by. The tower preserves a central door and 2 windows on its courtyard face. There are also remains of windows at first floor level. There would have been a spiral staircase, giving access to each of the 3 stories, above the basement and also to the curtain wall. Each floor had a fireplace and lavatory. The fireplace's flues discharged smoke through 3 chimneys at roof level, and the guardrobe emptied through a shaft which may also have carried rainwater from the roof. The roof timbers were lead covered and concealed from the outside by battlements containing narrow slits. The overhanging timber construction around the roof all covered the garrison to defend the area at the very base of the tower without exposing themselves to enemy attack. This area would have been where the kitchens were situated. Excavation of this area revealed the ovens and drains of the castle kitchens and the brickwork foundations for a series of timber frame buildings. The patches of brickwork in the wall are repairs made after the removal of these structures. The Auditor's Tower was named because the tower was used to accommodate the King's Auditor on his annual visits. This was the last part of the castle to collapse in 1815. The large outer enclosure was surrounded by a ditch and low earth bank, on top of which was a wooden fence. The name Routyard may derive from a Lincolnshire term, meaning a place where unclaimed stray cattle were kept. In medieval times, it was given over to stables, barns and grazing land. There might have also been mews for falcons, kennels for hunting dogs, and a dovecote. Some of the castle servants may also have lived here. In the centre is a prominent rectangle earthwork of an uncertain date. It was variously identified as a fish pond and a Civil War fort, but its use remained uncertain. Part of the ditch on the left-hand side, by the trees, seemed to have formed a chain of ponds to supply the castle with fresh fish. The gap in the curtain wall to the left of this tower leads out to a walk around the outside of the castle. Bolingbroke Castle is free to visit during daylight hours. There is a small car park on Moat Lane. There are also no facilities on site, and dogs are welcome on a lead. Thank you all for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up, maybe leave us a comment and subscribe for more content. Take care.